All right, guys, all last week we worked on a little thing called settings. We talked a lot about how settings can affect the characters, how settings can affect the story, how certain things happen in a book because of the setting specifically, right? And so in our book, Harbor Me, the examples that we used is the conversations that they have in art class versus when they are just anywhere else in the school. This week we're working on a different skill. This is called inferences. Inferences mean you use text clues plus your background knowledge to make a conclusion. Okay. One way of making inferences is making predictions. This could be because of something you already know about your book, or it could be because of experiences that you've had in life that help you to make connections, and then you can kind of figure out what's going to happen because you know what's going to happen because of something you've had in your life. The big word is inference, that INFERENCES. For those of you that are here joining me in the classroom, you see that on your screen right now. So today's reader's response is based on what the text says. I predict. So we're going to be making predictions about what might come next. All right. And we're going to use things that we know from either life or story to help us predict what's going to come next. That's going to be our job. You guys, we are so close to being finished. I am actually picking up our next story from the library this afternoon. So I wish we had finished this before I picked up the next one so I didn't have to go back again, but we're going to make do. All right, chapter 33 in Harbor Me. The following Friday, Holly sat next to me and nodded toward the recorder. Oh, remember, Haley said she would be doing talking on Friday. My own hands were sweating as I pressed the button and looked up at the others. I was surprised how nervous I was. No one had ever said, "Don't talk about your dad." But for some reason, I had buried the story deep, and now I was going to tell it. To my friends, I kept saying that again and again in my head. They're your friends, Haley. They are your friends. But just as I turned on the recorder, Esteban said, "I have another poem from my papi." And Amari said, "Yes!" Holly nodded at me. Esteban climbed down from the window seat and pulled the poem from his pocket. It was as wrinkled as his uniform. "I have to keep it on me," he said. "Crazy baby cousin always taking my things and messes with them. I put the other poems up on a shelf, but he can climb." Esteban smiled and shook his head. He looked tired but happy as he unfolded the poem, holding the page at its edges. His hands trembled as he read first the Spanish and then more slowly and beautifully the English. "And when darkness came and the night felt like it wanted to swallow me, the echo of 'Lights out' was thrown back at the guards in so many beautiful languages that it sounded like the song the world has been trying to teach us since the beginning of time." He folded the poem carefully and put it back in his pocket. "It means that there are all these different kinds of people in detention with my papi. And when the guards tell him that it's time for lights out, they all yell it back in their own language. So my papi hears all the languages, and it's like they're singing him to sleep." Esteban touched the pocket with the poem in it. "That's all I have to say for now." He climbed back onto the window ledge and wrapped his arms around his legs, resting his head on his knees. And everyone told him how beautiful the poem was. I stood up. I want to talk now, I said. You guys have all told your stories about your family, and there's a story I haven't told you. I looked over at Holly and she nodded again. It's about my life. It's about my father. Esteban turned to me. And my mother, I said, my voice cracking. It's about what happened to me when I was little and when I first met Holly's mom, Kira. That's the end of chapter 33. I am going to go on to 34. The first time I met Holly's mom, I was 7 years old, and Holly and I had only known each other for a few months. Kira, Holly's mom, had asked my uncle about doing my hair, and he agreed. No, he hadn't agreed. He nearly jumped into her arms before she could even get the words out. So the first time I was at their house, when I was sitting in their kitchen with my hair washed and dripping onto the towel, and Kira asked me about my full name, about my family, the rest of the group got so quiet. I stopped talking. My throat felt like it was closing up. You got this, Red, Amari said to me. His smile loosened at the words. I looked at Holly helplessly. It's okay, she said. I'm here with you. I can help if you need me. Everyone nodded. I smiled at her, relieved, and Holly put her arm around me. The thing I've never told you guys is that my dad's in prison. Your dad's in prison? Chiago and Amari said at the same time. I nodded. For what? Chiago asked. Did he rob somebody? He was driving, I said slowly. He was driving a car. My mother was in it. The room felt like it was breathing for me. As I told the story of the accident, Esteban's eyes filled and Ashton put his head down on his hands. When I got to the part about my father running home for my uncle's help, Amari said, Geez, Red, I didn't even know. He said it quietly, almost under his breath. But in the words, there was so much love that it felt like he was reaching across the circle and hugging me. Holly was holding on to my hand now. Is he in jail for life? Amari finally asked. And plus, I'm sorry about your mom. He's going to be coming out soon, I said. It's not exactly sure when. This is too deep, Amari said. No wonder you're so quiet, Red. You are all kinds of still water. When I first met Kira, she asked me about my people, and I told her my mom had died. I waited for her to say something like, I'm so sorry, or you poor baby, or oh, sweetie. But she didn't. She was combing my hair at the time, and she stopped for a minute, and her hand got real shaky. I remember you told my mom that your mom died when you were 3, Holly said, and that you didn't really remember her. My mommy's still with us, Esteban said. I feel lucky for that. But why was her hand shaky? Ashton asked. Was she feeling sad for you? No, Holly said. That's the crazy part. She jumped up from her seat, then she sat down again real fast and started tapping her feet, like I wasn't telling the story fast enough. Tell them, Haley. I'm trying, I said. Kira asked me if I was Beryl Anderson's child, and I told her Beryl was my mom. Your moms knew each other? Amari asked. That's wild. Yes, Holly said. It's real wild. Our moms were pregnant together. When my mom told us that, I was like, wait, what? You and who and what? I laughed. But your mom just ignored you. I said, Kira came around the chair and crouched in front of me. Her face was all worried and sad, but it was happy too, remember? Holly nodded. She brushed her hair back away from my forehead and said, Your mom and I used to go to Tom's Diner over on Washington after our Lamaze classes. We'd order so much food, the waitress would always ask if someone was joining us. And then Kira laughed, and I remembered I wanted to laugh too, but my heart felt like it was competing with my tongue for space inside my mouth. So I just whispered to Kira, You knew my mother. I stopped talking. It was hard to tell the story, but it wasn't hard. It felt like everyone in the room was leaning in and listening and really caring. Felt like everyone around me wanted everything to turn out all right. We got you, Red, Amari said quietly. You know that, right? I nodded, smiled at him and continued. Kira told me how much I looked like my mother and how when she first saw me, she thought maybe it was possible. But it was too much of a coincidence. But Brooklyn's small when you think about it, right? All right, I'm going to stop here. We've never stopped in the middle of a chapter, but I'm going to stop right here. Okay, we need to make inference. We need to make predictions about what will come next. I want you to do me a favor in the chat box. I want you to throw down a prediction that you may or may not have about what will come next in this story. Okay. What do you think will come next in this story? So right now, Red's telling her story for the first time, right? Haley's telling her story. Are her friends going to support her? Are they not going to support her? We're learning that Kira's mom and Haley's mom, or Holly's mom and Haley were friends. What do you guys think might come up next? Miles, do you want to continue? Kim says, I think her friends are going to support her. It's a good prediction. Samra says, same. Thank you, Kim, for being brave. It's kind of a heavy chapter. Did anybody get any feels from that chapter?
I think her friends are going to be sympathetic.
You think they'll be sympathetic? I think that's a great idea. Yeah. Okay. I think I could probably answer in the same way. I think that they're going to kind of look at her in a new light, right? Now that they know a little bit more about her and her story. I think that that's going to be the case. Yeah. Mila, what's your question?
I think
Okay. Do you have a different question, Miller, or was that what the question was? Does it have to do with the book? Okay, not to do with the book. Okay. All right, guys, we're going to end reading time right there. So we are going to stop our recording now.